Good evening and welcome to our June Council meeting. Welcome everybody and please be upstanding for our country and our council president. I would like to start the meeting by acknowledging and extending my appreciation for the Dja Dja Wurrung people, the traditional owners of the land we're standing on today. Today we pay our respects to leaders and elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, traditions, the culture and the hopes of all Dja Dja Wurrung people. The council prayer. Almighty God, we ask you to be present in this council, direct and guide our deliberations. We ask you to grant us wisdom and sensitivity as we deal with the business of Central Goldfields Shire. May each decision that we make advance the well-being of all our residents. This we pray. Amen. Welcome to our gallery and our virtual gallery. We have no apologies today. However, we do have Councillor de Villiers joining us online, so it is a hybrid meeting, which in our governance rule is acceptable. So welcome, Councillor de Villiers.
Thank you. Good evening.
There's no leave of absence, and councillors, is there any conflicts of interest, please? No, if not, we'll move on to confirmation of minutes from the previous council meeting held on the 28th of May. Councillors, do I have someone to move those? I move that. Councillor Lavella, thank you very much. And a seconder? Councillor Meadows-Taylor, thank you. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. Minutes of delegated and advisory committees. We have minutes of confirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee held on the 4th of March in 2024. Councillors, can I have someone here to move those, please? Councillor Murphy, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Meadows-Taylor. Put that to the vote. All those in favour of accepting them? Against? Motion carried. Petitions. We have a petition to provide more disability parking bays around the clinics in town. Do I have somebody to move that petition, please? Councillor Sproul.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the council recommendation that Council 1, accept the submitted petition as prescribed by the governance rules. 2, thank the petitioner, submitter, those who signed the petition. And 3, acknowledge the completed additional disabled parking bays that have been installed in the Maryborough Medical Precinct.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. May I have a seconder, please, for that petition? Councillor Murphy. Councillor Sproul, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. We noted this petition at the last meeting. The loss of some disabled parking bays around the hospital were as a result of the hospital expansion construction works. There was a discussion around parking bays and the numbers online a few months back, which I assume may have been the trigger for this petition. That same online conversation led to a discussion around the table here, where as a result, some investigative works were done to consider expanding the number of disabled parking bays around the hospital. As a result, more bays were added to relieve some of the congestion. Our governance rules around petitions state that unless it's considered urgent business, no motion can be made regarding the petition until the next council meeting, which is the one we have in today. However, as I said previously, it was noted in the main meeting. And so I just personally want to thank the originator of the petition and all those who signed it. And whilst the completed works don't exactly match the petition requests, the added disabled parking bays and signage are well received.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Councillor Murphy, would you like to speak? No? Any other councillors like to speak to this? No? If not, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor de Villiers, yep, that's 4. Thank you. The motion is carried. Move on to item number 8, which is our officers' reports. Item 8.1, page 57 on the agenda is adoption of the 24-25 budget. Do we have someone to move that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the Opta's recommendation that council thanks all submitters for providing feedback on the draft 24-25 budget, and those responses have been included in this report. 2, note the 24-25 budget has been prepared in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020. And 3, having considered all the submissions received on the draft 2024-25 budget, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020, adopts the 2024-25 budget in attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows Taylor. Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Meadows Taylor, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before talking about the budget highlights, I'd like to just refer to the process, because I think the process that led us to this document and led us to this outcome is really important. This is a result of months of work by the officers, a considerable amount of time spent with council as we deliberate an increasingly challenging and difficult situation that we and other councils face in a rate capping environment, where the rate cap has been set at 2.75. We haven't sought an extension this year, but of course that is below even the CPI. That is considerably below the cost of doing business in local government. So this has taken a lot of work, but importantly also, the process has included considerable activity to engage with the community. And we've had a number of responses. Some of those relate to the Maryborough Outdoor Pool Complex. I'll talk about that later, as we would probably have expected. It's a hot topic of, but all respondents have been replied to, and we thank the community for that engagement. That engagement is an important part of the budget. It's not just the council budget; it's a council budget with community input. The highlights is really set out under financial and resource implications. It is important, so that we have a net surplus of 3.3 million, but with 7.5 million of capital grants budgeted for 24-25, we actually end up with an adjusted underlying deficit result of 4.2 million. This is very, very severe, and it really reflects the challenge that we and other councils face in a rate capping environment. And it's important that our community understand those challenges. So often the comments are, council should do X. We would do it if we could, we can't because we just don't have the resources. And this actually indicates how serious the situation is with an underlying deficit result of 4.2 million. And there's no immediate prospect that's going to change. The situation will just get worse. It is an incredibly challenging situation. However, despite that situation, with a lot of attention, a lot of consideration, we've been able to, I think, achieve an incredibly responsible outcome where we actually have balanced the range of services our community needs with capital grants and capital works across a range of areas, across our land, our property, and service improvements. So it's a balance of services, a balance of capital investments. Our risk profile remains low in terms of borrowing, and that may give us some flexibility. It's a good situation to be in. The prudent management means that if necessary, we can look to borrowing, as we have done, and we have that option, but we will always take the prudent course of action in respect of that. But it is important to note that the assessed risk classification is low, according to the Auditor General's statements. So this is a good situation to be in a difficult and challenging environment that is forced upon us and all councils. I think we can say to the community confidently that we have balanced the need to provide a range of services, which we have to do cradle to grave, which we really do. We've balanced that responsibly in terms of service delivery, capital investment. We continue to attract grants in an increasingly difficult situation because grants from particularly the state government are fewer because of the financial situation, but we work hard to attract what we can, and we balance those with the available funds we have. So it's a balanced budget, it's a good budget. It's a good budget because of months of deliberation, months of consideration, and also the input from our community. I think this is a great outcome. But it is, we should all be aware, and our community needs to be aware, that the future of local government, with the challenges that we face, this council and other councils, with rate capping environment is very, very serious, will become more challenging and will require more difficult decisions ahead, including the issue of waste management, which is going up exponentially, 4.4% this year. So a very difficult situation indeed, but we have achieved a good outcome in that challenging environment, and it's my pleasure to move that motion to adopt the budget. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows-Taylor. Councillor Murphy.
Can't say much more than what Councillor Meadows-Taylor has said. We've taken most of the situation I was going to say. It is responsible, and I mean the responsible budget. Like some people out there think we could do all these things. Why can't council do this? Why can't council do this? Why can't council fix this? Why can't council fix that? But you can do what you can do. That's a responsible. It's like a home budget or your business budget. That's responsible. Money doesn't grow on trees. You just can't pick up $100,000 off a tree and say, we'll go and do that. So I think it's responsible. We've got to be very tight with it, but also we have to be accountable to it. We have to be very accountable to it. And with the works we're doing, accountable to the works that we do. So I commend the budget, being responsible, but it is difficult as Councillor Meadows said.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Would any other councillors like to speak to this motion? Councillor Lavella.
I just want to be noted that in the outer years of the budget, assumptions have been made around spend, grants expected and received or to be received, capital works and rate capping. These are reviewed on an ongoing basis, but a conservative approach has been taken with each of these. The changes between the draft budget and this final document, for those who aren't aware, are 25,000 added for bike repair stations, and that's expected to be carried forward rather than completed in 23-24. $70,000 added to the 24-25 budget for sport and recreation lighting strategy, which is so important for our clubs around here, following advice of the successful grant application, which we're waiting on. This is a $40,000 grant with $30,000 council contribution toward it. $505,000 moved onto the 25-26 capital works budget for upgrading council's grader due to longer expected timeframes for delivery. Signs and traffic control facilities joined in the one line item in the capital works program to enable flexibility where required. $100,000 creative stations grant, including the following successful grant application, including associated costs and other minor changes to fees and charges. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. Thank you, Councillor Lavella. Would anyone else like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote to accept the budget. All those in favour? Against? That motion is carried. Councillor Lavella, could you raise your hand? Councillor Villiers, could you make sure that your hand is raised in front of the camera because we can't see it properly? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right, item 8 has 8.2, sorry. Item 8 has a second part to it, 8.2, which is the adoption of the financial sustainability strategy on page 108 of the agenda. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Lovett, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move that Council 1, adopt your sustainability strategy. 2, submit a copy of the financial sustainability strategy to the Legislative Council's Economy and Infrastructure Committee inquiry into local government funding and service delivery as council submission to that inquiry, and commence the preparation of an application to the Essential Services Commission for a rate cap variation to enable compliance with the Minister for Local Government Service Rates and Charges guidelines for the 2025-26 financial year in relation to waste charges.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. Do I have somebody to second that motion, please? Councillor Sproul, thank you. Councillor Lovett, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Financial sustainability in Central Goldfields Shire Council is important for ensuring the continued provision of essential services to the community. Emerging issues such as rate caps, increasing costs, and legislative changes pose significant challenges to the financial stability of councils right across Victoria. The financial sustainability outlines the financial challenges faced by Central Goldfields Shire Council. External factors like natural disasters and global events further exacerbate our financial strain. While rates remain the primary revenue source, challenges in rate capping and waste charges regulations impact revenue streams. While council faces financial sustainability challenges through proactive strategies and prudent financial management offer avenues for improvement. By addressing revenue constraints, managing costs effectively, and prioritising service planning, the council can navigate the current landscape and enhance its long-term financial viability. An immediate action is required is to commence the process to prepare an application to the Essential Services Commission for a rate cap variation which aims to bring the revenue currently generated from waste management fees into our rate base. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. Councillor Sproul, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. No doubt, even as you heard tonight, the council funds are very tight and the pressure that continues to continue the level of service is ever increasing, with ever increasing costs are an ongoing concern. This strategy has some excellent graphs that enable people to visualise council's position and hopefully understand it better. The CPI versus the rate cap is a great example. Since 2018, CPI has risen by 20.7%, yet the rate cap has allowed for only 13.5% of increases. Our federal assistance grant, which is the largest grant, used to be 1% of Commonwealth tax revenue, yet since the introduction of the GST, this number is slowly lowered to around 0.5%. So there is ongoing advocacy from peak bodies to restore this grant back to the 1% levels. As Councillor Lovett mentioned, the waste charges are not covered by the cap and can be recovered through fees and charges. But with the shift in the ministerial guidelines around what can be charged, this has the $1.9 million effect on the council budget, which the application to the Essential Services Commission for a rate cap variation will hopefully alleviate. And so for households, that basically means that the rough amount will be the same. It just charges will move from this side to that side. But also I think it'd be important for the public to understand the effects of things like halting of indexing of the CPI on grants, which means that the costs still increase with inflation, but the grants or funding that pay for that service don't. So this slowly widens the gap, which leaves a shortfall in service or increased costs, which council are required to fill. The council is the first in line for service delivery in connection with the public, but the last in queue for funding. So you've probably heard the term trickle-down economics. Well, the trickle has been getting slower for years, and this strategy helps identify avenues and goes some way to help alleviate that.
Thank you, councillor Sproul. Would any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Meadows Taylor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I'm a bit worried about the doom and gloom merchant, but it is worth pointing out, recently some material I read about the British situation. Some 10 years ago, I was doing lots of work with the NAB on the future of local government, and at the time we focused a lot on UK local government. It was seen to be the leaders in terms of providing services to meet the community. Now the situation of local governments in the UK is it faces a total of $97.5 billion debt. And key services, there was something on TV, waste in Birmingham is flowing onto the streets to deal with it. So it is a warning of what might be ahead. And I think this the opportunity that's identified in the motion to take this to the Legislative Council's Economic and Infrastructure Committee inquiry to local government is a real opportunity. We have to make government aware of what is happening before it's too late. We took the opportunity to write to the Prime Minister that Premier Large in December. I know it's a motion to indicate the particular problems of rural Australia and rural Australian Council. This is another opportunity. We have to take every opportunity we have, unless we'll find ourselves in a situation like the UK. It'll be too little, too late, and then we've got a real problem. Thanks, Madam.
Thank you, councillor Meadows Taylor. Any other councillors like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? De Villiers? Yep. Thank you. We can see you now. All those against? That motion is carried. Next on the agenda, we have 8.3, which is the adoption of the memorial policy. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Lovett. Your
Thank you,
motion.
Madam Mayor. I move that Council 1 note that no formal community feedback received during the community engagement period. And 2, that we adopt the reviewed and updated memorials policy.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Do I have a second, please? Councillor Lavella, thank you. Councillor Lovett. Yes, you're foreshadowing a motion. Thank you, councillor Murphy. Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We live in an ever-changing society where attitudes continue to evolve. We need to establish guidelines for scattering cremated remains. Roadside memorials need to be managed with sensitivity and safety in mind. Plaques and memorials are important in celebrating the achievements of Central Goldfields Shire and its community. They also provide historical context for current and future generations and promote civic pride. But this needs to be done in a regulated environment. This updated memorials policy provides a proper balance for everyone in meeting contemporary needs. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Councillor Lavella, would you like to speak?
Nothing much to say. The memorials policy is an internal policy and was previously updated in 2011, so it's well and truly due for an update. As Councillor Lovett outlined, things do change.
Thank you, councillor Lavella. Anyone else would like to speak to this motion? Councillor Murphy.
The reason why I put in foreshadowing motion,
This is your microphone.
the reason why I'm foreshadowing motion, it's not because I'm against the whole thing, it's just I think I've missed something. But in the report it says temporary memorials change from 13 months to 3 months. I thought 3 months is a bit not enough for grieving, and I'm thinking it should be 6 months. That's something that can be done after the policy is done, it's fine. We don't have to go any further with it, but I really believe that the temporary memorials change, what's 13 months? Now it's going to be 3 months of the policy. So I think that's not enough time for a grief. So I'm just saying that if we vote this down, we may just come back with 6 months before we come back to it. I'm not sure if we can just put that in the policy at a later date.
Thank you, councillor Murphy.
That's it.
Anyone else would like to speak to this motion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor De Villiers? We can't see your hand. There we go. Thank you. All those against? That motion is carried. 8.4 on our agenda, adoption of road management plan on page of 150 on our agenda. Does somebody would like to use that? Thank you, Councillor Meadows Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the opposite recommendation that Council 1 notes the submissions received during the consultation period and 2 adopts the road management plan 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows Taylor. And the second, please, Councillor Murphy. Thank you, Councillor Meadows Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a plan that we do revise from time to time. The last one was in 2017. It is a major document. It takes a lot of work. It is incredibly important. We know from our community satisfaction survey, even there was a lot of confusion with state roads and local roads, but obviously roads are an issue around rural and regional Australia, and they are in our shire. What I think our residents often don't appreciate is how thorough our planning and our system is for maintenance of those roads. It's not ad hoc. It is absolutely planned, given a certain category. Each of those categories receives a treatment according to that category, a time frame. But importantly, critically, there is a process for resident requests to be assessed, to be addressed within a time period, to be prioritised with safety as a key consideration. And I think that bit is the one that is probably least understood. Everyone would like to see roads in a better state. If only we had millions more, we would do that. As we talked about before earlier in this meeting, that's not an option that's available to us. But what we do is manage our roads within the resources available to us. And I think it's important, as this report identifies, that we've identified 3 key things. First of all, the asset itself, our roads and the consideration of our roads and the categories of our roads and the structure of our roads and identified. And then the governance issues around those, responding to residents' requests, responding to safety issues, prioritising the needs for change. But then, of course, the third factor, which I've just mentioned before, financial sustainability, what we can do with what we have. And that's a key issue. And what the road management plan does is take each of those issues, the asset, the governance and the financial sustainability, and puts them together in terms of a robust plan that's had a lot of input, and I thank everyone for the input. I thank our officers for trying hard. And when you've got a complex plan like this, people sometimes hesitate to respond to it, but we've tried in a number of ways with social media and for our advertising to get comments. Some of those, of course, have been negative and grumbling about why particular roads haven't been fixed and so on. We expect that. But we've done our best to take on board resident concerns, to take on that feedback. But as the report says, the officers have identified there's no need to change the structure of the plan. But this is a plan that does what we can with what we have to give us the best possible system for the management of our roads. And as a rural councillor, I'm pleased that we have this. I think it's a critical element, and it is with some satisfaction that I'm happy to move it to the final adoption after that process of consultation. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows Taylor. Councillor Murphy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Councillor Meadows Taylor. You take a bit of my thunder all the time, mate. But anyway, so I need to say a lot, but you say a lot. So I can't say a lot. But what I'm going to say is to the public, and the people out there in the gallery and the virtual gallery everywhere, they've got issues with roads, get this road management plan, get it eventually off the websites, get it somewhere where you can get it, which will be on the website and will be available once this is passed and available. And it's here available here in the hard copy. Read it. Read it and have a look how much work goes into it and what happens. It's not just as Councillor Meadows started says, higgly-piggly, I will do that one, will do that. It's important for us to understand and also how the constraints are, how hard it is to do it. And we have to also remember the road management plan is we don't own all the roads in the Shire. We have to remember that. We have to remember that we may have complaints about roads, which are not even our roads, which we've got to talk to Vic Roads about. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Would any other councillor like to speak to this? Councillor Lavella.
I would just like to note the purpose of this report is to provide council with information on the public consultation period undertaken in relation to the draft road management plan and officers' review of the submissions made by community members during that period. And it is recommended, and I believe that the submissions have been noted, received during the consultation period, and we adopt the road management plan 2024.
Thank you, councillor Lavella. Any other councillors like to speak to this motion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. We'll move on to our next item, item 8.5, which is the fair access policy on page 209 of our agenda. Do I have somebody to move that, please? Councillor Sproul.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation that council adopt the draft fair access policy and action plan for the purposes of public consideration.
Thank you. Somebody to second that? Councillor Lavella. Councillor Sproul.
Thank you, Mayor. The fair access policy is to help ensure that our community sporting infrastructure is equally available to women and gender diverse people. Council need to have a fair access policy in place, or at least be well into the process to be eligible for future Sports and Recreation Victoria infrastructure funding. The Victorian Government had an inquiry into women and girls in sport and active recreation, which found one recommendation was to deliver female-friendly built environments and equitable facility usage policies. To do that, we need sports clubs to review access and usage policies, not just for for competition timing, but also for training times. We need to ensure the built environment is appropriate by design and that we also address any safety issues. This plan was developed with input from our Gender Equality Committee, our Community Partnerships team, as well as input from Sport and Rec Victoria and the Office of Women in Recreation and Sport. And I'm happy to present this policy for public exhibition and comment.
Thank you, councillor Sproul. Councillor Lavella, would you like to speak?
Nothing really much, thank you, councillor. The Fair Access Policy Action Plan will support gender equitable access and use of community sports infrastructure so that women and girls can fully participate and enjoy the benefits of community sport with fair opportunity and access to their local facilities.
Thank you, councillor Lavella. Would any other councillors like to speak to this? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Our next item is 8.6, page 239 on our agenda, which is the future management of Bristol Hill Tower. Do I have somebody to move a motion? Councillor Lavella.
I wish to move a motion that is separate to what's in the agenda. And I move that council agrees to take over management of the Bristol Hill Tower precinct, the area to include sealed access roads, sealed car park, the memorial tower and the grassed area it sits upon. And number 2, the council agree to have further discussions to work through the finer details in relation to the management of historic cemetery and surrounds at the forefront of the Tower Knoll and car park area.
Thank you, councillor Lavella. Do I have somebody to second councillor Lavalla's motion? Councillor Love. Councillor Lavella.
The Bristol Hill Memorial Tower was built in 1933 during the Great Depression. It was based upon a name because of the Bristol Reef, which was mined from late 1850 and was constructed largely of material from the old Melbourne jail. The construction of the tower is a culmination of a collective effort, including the deserving unemployed of that time due to the post-war depression, notwithstanding the deeper meaning that this tower owes much to its pioneers and giving birth to the town of Maryborough and continued recognition of our rich history be set aside for historic and cultural purposes. The pioneers were far-seeing men and women. History shows that their immediate ambition was to do something which posterity would benefit, and so they laid a foundation for future stability and progress, catering for all branches of community life. I must add, this piece of infrastructure is paramount within our suite of tourism attractions and set in our Central Goldfields Shire Council Plan 21-25, our spaces and places, and also Community Vision 3, protection and preservation of heritage. The tower itself is an area of 85 square metres and won't require any structural maintenance for decades apart from cleaning when required. The tower grass area is 1,324 square metres, and Friends of Bristol Hill continue to tidy the area and pick up rubbish on weekly basis, if not daily when required. The sealed access road to the tower is an area of 2,190 square metres and 5 metres wide. I gained feedback from an authority and an independent source. Its current condition will not require any work for at least 5 to 6 years, even longer. Sealed car park is 420 square metres, similar lifespan to the road network. Just an aside, there is an estimation the sealing costs roughly $29 a square metre at this point in time, and no doubt that will go up as time goes on. The total area, including the tower, is 3,979 square metres. Recently, extensive works were carried out, 7% the cost of DEFRA and 30% from the local philanthropist, and thank you very much, and adding more to the initial scope of works given to DECA. Vandalism is one of the concerning issues, and I do believe investment in CCTV into the future would be prudent. However, that is a separate debate from today and into the future. Some comments in the report was DECA requesting that council take over management of this site, and note, if they, DECA, retain management, there will be limited ongoing maintenance and management of the site. I can deduce from that our historic tourist attraction will be back to wreck and ruin in no time at all, ignored and neglected. The report also stated Rotary have contributed to the general maintenance of the site, which they have indeed, and are interested in further involvement and development of the site. I spoke to a spokesperson of Rotary the other day who claimed there have been no further discussions with council regarding any plans for ongoing maintenance and/or development for literally months. History tells me if there is no money, and given our valued piece of cultural heritage is such a small speck in the whole of the state Crown land, which is approximately 1/3 of Victoria and 8 million hectares in over 100,000 parcels of land. We will most likely remain at the bottom of the pecking order indefinitely in regards to funding. This tower has always been and should continue to be the proud beacon towering over Central Goldfields Shire, our light of hope, of which it was intended, at the first instance. This tower is historic and significant memorial we must respect and reserve. Once the pinnacle of the tower, it gives us with 360-degree panoramic views to include the Blue Pyrenees Ranges to the north, the haze of the Macedon Ranges, Bald Hill, and also the Great Divide. An integral location of our suite of tourist attractions. In summary, the management is a mere 3,979 square metres of area to build into our budget over the ensuing years for repairs, of which we have been advised will not be due for at least 6 years. Once taking over management, we will be in a prime position to seek appropriate grants for maintenance. We don't only have a community obligation here, we have a moral obligation to take responsibility and support the dignity, posterity, and memory of our forefathers, our pioneers. We must continue to have discussions about the cemetery and how we can preserve and honour the graves. This is something we must respect. To not take management responsibility of this asset and to not build into the budget over ensuing years maintenance and upkeep, of which is much loved site, is derelict in our duty, and the shame will be on us. It is our beacon of hope. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lavella. Councillor Lloyd, would you like to speak to this
No,
motion?
I'll reserve my right.
Any other councillors like to speak to this motion? Councillor
If I
Sproul?
may, Madam
Well, Councillor Sproul first and then Councillor de Villiers.
Mayor, thank you.
I would just like to foreshadow a motion and the officer's recommendations if this one does not pass.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Councillor de Villiers?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like this to emphasize and reiterate what Councillor Lavella said, that we have a duty of care to preserve and protect heritage sites. And she's also underlined the importance of this monument to the community. And I think the main fact that the community grows up and the way they supported the maintenance and the repairs to the tower demonstrates how significant and important the monument is to the local community. The other thing that I would like to point out is that it's important to note that the council will only be responsible for the immediate area around the tower and the tower, and that the council and DECA can still negotiate with Parks Victoria for care and maintenance of the rest of the park. So I would just like to say that I fully support Councillor Lavella's motion.
Thank you, Councillor de Villiers. Would any councillors like to speak against this? Councillor Meadows-Taylor.
Thanks, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, there's a lot in the Councillor Lavella's motion that I would endorse. Of course, this is a very, very special part of our community and of our heritage. And I recognise the leadership that councillors have been provided. Councillor Vella, Councillor Lowe have both been active in relation to that space, and also acknowledge community input, particularly the Rotary Group and others like Dr. Norfolk and others who have been involved in supporting it. The difficulty I have in this is simply this. We have our own assets that we don't have the money to restore. The grandstand, classic example. We've recently dealt with the outdoor pool complex and the whole complex and the pool itself. And that remains an issue that we've agreed we'll give further consideration to. Councillor Vella has rightly talked about the importance of tourism, but one of the things in our priority projects plan is to recognise that we have, in fact, we want to establish 3 key precincts. The station and the development of that station will require further investment by us as well seek grants. We've got, of course, the civic precinct with the Town Hall and the gallery. But also, we've talked about developing in our priority projects plan Princess Park as a heritage reserve. And of course, connecting all those will be what wayfinding, which we've identified again in our priority projects plan. Each of those will require funds from us. And they're existing assets. On that station we don't own, but we have a lease. The grandstand we own, Princess Park we own, the pool we own, so the complex we own. So we have existing, and going forward, this council will have existing commitments for its own assets. We can't afford, in my view, to take on other assets that we might like to, that ideally we would want to and should do if we could do. But my view is we can't afford to do that when we have our own assets in a state of need. So I will be voting against this motion. If there's a foreshadowed motion along the officer's recommendation, I'll be voting for that. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows Taylor. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? No. Councillor Lovett, Councillor Murphy? Councillor Lovett. Councillor Lovett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm reading the officer's recommendation for this item as I'm about to exit council stage left. I feel like I've fallen at the last hurdle. 27 years ago, I was first elected to council on a platform to raise awareness of the history of Maryborough and Central Goldfields Shire and the importance of its preservation, because at that time, our history was being demolished. Until tonight, I've been quite happy with the progress made and can look back on many things with pride. But this officer's recommendation, the council declined Deaker's request to become the committee of management for the tower and surrounds, I find absolutely incomprehensible. The recommendation describes the tower as an important asset, heritage asset. In reality, it is the single most important structure in Maryborough. A memorial erected to honour the men and women who founded our town. At the official opening on Easter Sunday 1933, the tower was formally presented to Councillor Bryant, the Mayor of the Maryborough Council, who thanked the organising committee and accepted the gift on behalf of the citizens of Maryborough. From the official program that day, I quote, "Maryborough now possesses an asset to perpetuate the spirit of our pioneers. The committee expresses the hope that the tower will be forever treasured by the residents of Maryborough." Tonight, I pose the question, have we lived up to that hope expressed 90 years ago? Demonstrably not. We have failed miserably, made worse by this recommendation tonight. Councils place primary importance on the preparation of a council plan, a comprehensive overview, council values, commitments and activities for the next 5 years. When adopted, this becomes our guiding document. The council plan is supposed to be a living, breathing document, not meaningless words on a report gathering dust on someone's shelf. I quote from our current Central Goldfields Shire Council Plan 2021-2025 Space and Places. The community vision 3, protection and preservation of heritage. And yet, here we sit tonight, 91 years after a previous council comprised of like-minded community representatives who proudly accepted the tower gifted to Maryborough as a memorial. But now we sit here and are asked to wipe our hands of it, nothing to do with us because of some supposed cost burden. This is economic rationalism at its absolute worst. They know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. Let's wipe our hands of it. I have no idea how this vote will go, but I hope our whole community are watching very closely how this vote goes. Actions are far more meaningful than empty words. Councillor Meadows-Taylor has said we have our own assets to maintain and we have trouble maintaining them. But this is our asset. It was presented to us, the citizens of Maryborough, 91 years ago. Whatever governments have done in between, don't kid yourselves, it is still our memorial. Councillor Meadows-Taylor, that we are looking at creating 3 precincts, Station Precinct, Civic Square Precinct, Princes Park. I am totally in favour of them. But does that mean that anything of value that doesn't exist in those precincts, we wipe our hands off? I think not. We can find funding for an SBS documentary that went over like a lead balloon. We have just written an open cheque for a bike park between here and Castlemaine. But we can't find some petty cash, shekels that drop on the floor to maintain Maryborough's most important memorial as it approaches its centenary. I constantly hear about Rotary being mentioned. A lot of smoke, but there's no fire. A lot of talk, but there's no action. So if we vote to wipe our hands of the tower tonight, I echo my fellow councillors' words. Very quickly, our most important icon will fall into disrepair. I am, at the end of the day, a very simple person. I know the difference between right and wrong. If we vote against this motion, that is wrong. Always will be. That is wrong. I also understand commitment, and commitment is in our council plan. Commitment is an agreement or to do something, or a pledge to do something in the future. That's what we're asking here tonight.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Murphy.
I'd like to ask a question to the CEO. Been mentioned that if we take this off DECA, it could be up to 12 months before it's actually resolved and it's taken away, because DECA has to go through a lot of situations. If this was voted on yes tonight, is that something that's very relevant? Is it 2025, 26 budget That's what I'm trying to work out in my head. Is it 25-26 budget? Because the budget's already been put down for this year.
Ms. Robbie?
Yeah, through the mayor, thank you for that question, councillor Murphy. Most certainly, it will probably take about 12 months and then the responsibilities would fall to council. And so any expenditure would fall, as you said, into the next financial year. There wouldn't be any expenditure in this financial year.
This was voted yes, so there'd be no expenditure. So here we go. Here we go. I'm betwixt in between, like I have been in a lot of things. What I don't understand is we just put down a budget around about half an hour ago, and this all could have been done 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And I'm just a bit at a loss why it hasn't been brought forward, not by the officers, by us as councillors to say, let's do this. Also, there's an estimate cost of $40,000. An estimate cost, not a real cost, an estimate cost of $40,000 in there. I understand your motive about the tower, I understand all that. But I really am a loss. Main thing I'm a loss to is 6.1 was the budget. I think it was 6.1. Was 8.1 was the budget. We passed the budget. And everyone look at me, we say we passed the budget. And now down the track, down here, somewhere just a little bit further on, now we're going, hey, but if the money is in 25-26 and there's a confirmation of that, it's different because it's a new budget. I love the tower. Running bike up there, I think I crashed my car up there, you go to kids up there, all those sorts of things. I love it. I'd like to ask Councillor Lavella if she would change it to not the road. Mention the road, we don't want the road, we're not responsible for the road, and we're responsible for the tower and the grassy knoll it sits on. The tower and the grassy knoll it sits on. I'm wondering if Councillor Lavella would change her motion to that.
No negotiation, I'm sorry.
Now I would like to ask Councillor Lavella. It says something about an authority and an independent source. Who are they?
I won't disclose that and I don't think it's appropriate for you to ask it.
That's fine, but no one knows what that authority and independent source is.
Councillor Vella has got a right of reply, and she
Yeah.
can address those issues there.
Later, okay, that's fine. No. Yeah, if this is 25-26, I can see, I would be pretty happy for it to go ahead. And I'll be happy about that. I know we're doing it, and I know that at the end of the day, we should be in charge. I don't think we should be in charge of the road and all the grass over the grassy knoll and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think we should be in charge of the road. That's an issue for me. I think that's it's like taking over the road for big roads in other areas. I just don't understand that. So I'm betwixt and between with it. I've got some heart from the CEO about 25-26, and this is an estimate here. So this could be 40 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand. So I'm going to leave it at that because I still don't know which one I'm going to vote. There you go.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Would any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Sproul?
Noting that I foreshadowed a motion, so I've already spoken, so just, am I allowed to speak? Probably not.
Yeah, you can. That was a foreshadow.
Point of order, I dissent from that rule.
Okay.
Councillor Sproul was given an opportunity to speak and used that opportunity to foreshadow a motion.
Okay, that concludes the debate then. Councillor Lavella, you have a right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to sum up, the 40,000, the supposed 40,000 stadium report, that won't be, not this year's budget, that's done. Won't even be next year's budget. This is to be drawn out over a number of years. Given there's a 5 or 6 years before any reparation work is required on the access roads, the car park, and indeed the tower was 80 years before it was repaired recently, so we have got a lot of time there. The cost burden, I think, over a number of years will be gone by the time it needs repairs up there. And as councillor Lovett said, it's petty cash for goodness sake. I can't think of anything else. I think we covered everything that we needed to cover, but it is our asset. It is a memorial that was put there by our forefathers, by the people that wanted to show and demonstrate a beacon. It's not a beacon, a memorial over Central Goldfields, and I think it's up to us to respect the dignity of our forefathers. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, councillor Lavella. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour of councillor Lavella's motion? All those against?
Division?
Division? Those for councillor Lavella's motion? Against? Oh, sorry, sorry. For councillor Lovett, sorry, gone blank. Councillor Lavella, councillor Murphy, and councillor de Villiers. Those against? Councillor Sproul, councillor Meadows Taylor, and councillor Long. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to
Thank you, councillor.
We'll move on to item 8.7, which is the Audit and Risk Committee's biannual report to council for June 24. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Councillor Murphy, thank you. Your motion?
Rightio. The council will receive and note the Audit and Risk Committee's biannual report to council for the 6 months to the 31st of May 2020.
And a seconder, please. Councillor Lovett, councillor Murphy.
Just as read, it's all pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Councillor Lovett, would you like to speak to this motion? No? Any other councillors like to speak to this? No, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Motion is carried. Okay, last item for our agenda for the officers' reports is 8.8, which is the adoption of the Carisbrook Levy reference for terms of reference. Do I have somebody to move that? Councillor Sproul?
Thank you, Mayor. Move the officers of recommendations that Council 1 endorse the terms of reference for the Carisbrook Levy Independent Review Reference Group. And 2, thank the members of the Carisbrook Levy Independent Review Reference Group for their work to date in drafting these terms of reference and preparing a scope of works for the independent reviewer.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. And a second, please. Councillor Meadows Taylor. Councillor Sproul.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good practice to review a project once it's complete, and especially a project as large as the Carisbrook Levy. It's no secret the levy has had mixed reviews from residents, and to have an independent review is very welcome to help work through some of the concerns, but also to help council ensure that the levy will do what it was designed to do. The review committee has some very passionate community members who have been residents for a long time. Terms of reference listed set out the roles of all members, including council officers. The independent review will be done by Mr. Fred Spain, who is a New South Wales Public Works engineer and is very well versed in levy design and construction. Fred is currently visiting Carisbrook, meeting with the committee and visiting key locations around the levy. I want to thank all the community members for their participation and willingness to offer up information and evidence to Fred, which will hopefully make his job easier. I personally really look forward to the outcome of the review, which will hopefully put to rest some of the community's concerns, but also help guide council to ensure the levy performs as it should.
Thank you, Councillor Sprout. Councillor Meadows Taylor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And I know how councillor Murphy feels now. I think you've stolen some of the words I wanted to councillor Sprout, but look, it is, as you have said, it is good practice. With a long project like this that's gone over many years and many developments, post-implementation review is simply good practice. And that is exactly what we're doing. It is good that we've reached agreement with the community on the terms of reference, that they're represented, and I think the process is set to go well. And hopefully, I think this will be a point at which differences and misunderstandings can be brought together in terms of a common understanding. And I think that the person that's been brought in, Vince Bain, comes with an excellent reputation, and I think clearly is a person that is perhaps able to bring together synergies where there hasn't been understanding and a shared understanding where there's been misunderstanding. And I think that would be a fine thing. If that leads to some modifications, some changes, what we've done, some enhancements, I think that's a fine thing too. And I think we should accept those recommendations in the good spirit in which they'll be offered. So this is a good process, and I wish it well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows Taylor. Would any other councillors like to speak to this motion? Councillor Murphy.
Just noted what Councillor Meadows Taylor said there about we accept the recommendations, we accept the findings, and that should be it. And we just move on from it. So we've got to accept it. We have to. We do it. And the committee and the public. I'm very conscious that there may be one or two people out there who may not accept it and keep being a loud voice. But we should accept it.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Anyone else like to speak to this? If not, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. That concludes our officers' reports. We don't have any council reports or general business. There are no notices of motion. Is there urgent business? No. There's no confidential business. So on that note, I will close the meeting. Thank you, gallery. Thank you, virtual gallery, for all those driving home, for do so safely, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Mick, can you lock me out, please?